Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here again with another video, and I haven't put a video out for a few days, might even be longer than that. Obviously, been working the CSGO Major in Atlanta. We're going to be flying up to Boston, so there hasn't really been a lot of time, but I did want to put a quick video out just to give people an update on one of the stories that we've been following through this channel, through my social media, because I think it's going to have a profound impact on the whole gaming culture, esports culture, and that is the swatting death over in Kansas that was caused by the now arrested, detained Tyler Barris. Now, again, there's two videos already on my channel about this, but just if you're not up to speed, basically there was an argument between two Call of Duty players over the matter of $1.50. They got in each other's face, they started being angry with each other. One threatened to swat the other, so that person then said, you know, this went to the person who was supposedly going to swat him, gave a fake address. The SWAT team go to that fake address. Obviously, the person inside has no idea what's going on, comes to the door, and the SWAT team are in a heightened state of awareness because of the nature of the call that was put in, something I'm going to come to in just a moment. He put his arms up when he saw the spotlights on. They assumed he had a weapon, and they opened fire. Now, the victim's family have said they definitely want this police officer prosecuted as well. That might be an offshoot case, which I think would have very positive ramifications for American society. Right now, I make no beef about it. I think the vast majority of police are perfectly, good people trying to do something good for society. Unfortunately, there's a very notable minority of American police that lack the discipline required to be distributing lethal force on the streets. And we've seen in 2017 a lot of tragic shootings that, in my opinion, are not sound and could have been avoided. Topic for another video. So we talked in a previous video about what charges were going to be leveled at him. I broke down some legal analysis of what potential charges Tyler Barris could be facing for the SWAT. There is no specific charge for what happens in this in this instance. There was nothing that sort of says, well, if you fake call SWAT and somebody dies, then this is what happens. There's certainly laws around wasting police time and whatnot, just to oversimplify the discussion, but nothing specific for this instance. So it wasn't clear what charge was going to be leveled at him, what he would be facing in court. Reckless homicide was certainly on the table, but we now know for sure that it's going to be manslaughter. You can see here, this is from the Wichita Eagle. You can see how it's been reported here that he's going to face a manslaughter charge and has had his bond set at a very sizable $500,000. So, it's not even clear if he's going to be able to make that bail bond. He's estranged from his grandmother, who took out a restraining order against him. He's been living in and out of sort of institutional care. So it's very interesting to see whether or not he'll be able to have that bail posted. I don't even know if that's that bond posted, rather. I don't know if that's something that's going to happen. But anyway, you can see the report here. It says Tyler Barris, 25, was arrested on December 29th, less than a day after someone called Wichita police claiming there was a homicide and hostage situation at 1033 West McCormick. A man inside the home, identified by his family as Andrew Finch, opened the door to see what police were outside and was shot by an officer who was in a driveway across the street. Barris waived extradition to Kansas, which we also talked about in the last video, was booked into the Sedgwick County Jail on Thursday afternoon. On a financial affidavit filed Friday, Barris wrote that he had no address, is unemployed, and has not worked in the past 6 months. So this is another reason why I don't think he's going to be able to make bail. It also shows what a dysfunctional individual he has been. And honestly, there's a bigger conversation, I think, around how does somebody with all of these clear problems, a history of violence, a history of bomb threats, how is somebody like this on the streets to cause further harm to people? It really boggles my mind, at least. But anyway, You can see here, asked what is happening with the other investigation in the case involving the shooting. This is for the police, shooting of it, saying it's still under review, according to the district attorney. Once I make a determination, that will be public either through charges or through a press conference as normal. Now, one of the other things you may remember is that in this sort of ensuing drama in the 24 hours between when it happened, Tyler Barris didn't interview. I mean, it completely shows his, lack of awareness about the severity of what was happening. He went on Twitter, admitted to it on Twitter, and was also saying, hey, why aren't we blaming the police officer? I take no responsibility for this. When he was talking to Keemstar, he was saying, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done it, but it's not my fault the guy's dead, and seemed to have a real lack of remorse about what he was saying. I mean, Keemstar has talked to all kinds of reprehensible people through his Drama Alert series, and you could tell Keemstar was legitimately disgusted. I've never seen Keem like that before. So, what follows next is interesting, because there's now articles being circulated where apparently now Tyler Barris regrets everything that happens and wants to give his perspective on that. So here's a publication with the video. You can see it's on CBS News. Kansas swatting suspect expresses regret from jail.
Show me master of none.
So hang on, there's going to be an advert here that I think's unskippable. Let me just see.
You know what time?
I'll just mute that while it plays, because I think it's important to hear him in his own words. I don't want to misrepresent what is being said here, so we'll just wait for that. So here it is.
I could have, rewound somehow, and just never done it.
A remorseful Barris wishes none of this ever happened.
I never intended for, anyone to get shot and killed.
But even if getting an innocent man shot and killed by police was never the intent, many wonder why anyone would make a swatting call in the first place.
There's no inspiration. I don't just get bored and sit around and, decide that I'm gonna make a SWAT call.
So why? Barris says oftentimes people have paid him to make swatting calls.
So you were paid to make the call?
On numerous occasions I have been, so,
Can you tell us if you were on this occasion?
I'd rather not.
Barris was hesitant when asked directly about making the call to Wichita police that led them to the home where Finch was shot and killed. But he did offer some insight into his feelings, knowing what a swatting call ultimately turned into for one Wichita family.
Well, it hasn't just affected my life, it's affected, someone's family too, as well. Someone lost their life, I understand the magnitude of what happened. So it doesn't have, it's not just affecting me because I'm sitting in jail. I know who it has affected. I understand all of that.
So a few things here. First of all, I think it's very interesting that he says it wasn't his intention. Those of you who have heard the original call into SWAT, he was very vehemently expressing not just that there was a hostage situation and that there'd been a murder. He was also saying, I'm threatening, I'm going to blow the place up. I put gasoline everywhere and I'm going to blow the place up. Why would you embellish to that degree? If your only goal is to get the SWAT to go out to inconvenience someone, why would you embellish to that degree? The only reason you would say, hey, there's an immediate danger is because you want the person to get shot. You think that'll be funny. There's no reason to add that level of detail. I'm sorry, if somebody else can give me an explanation as to why you need to put the police in a state of high alert if your goal is to just inconvenience somebody, I'd like to hear it. I do not understand that. And also as well, I've got to say, his legal counsel must be pulling their hair out, because any opportunity now about some sort of impairment defense, i.e. I wasn't of the right mind or I have learning difficulties, well, he's just saying there, oh, I totally understand the gravity of what happened, and I don't do these things out of boredom or a compulsion. I do them for profit. Well, I mean, again, if I was his legal team, I would be absolutely fucking furious that he's saying these things on the record to press outlets. I don't know if he's been advised to try and intimate that he's doing it for money. That only makes it worse. You know, you do this for profit. Now, you'll also notice he didn't say, I took money in this instance. That's probably because, first of all, there is obviously an ongoing case with this, and evidence will be entered into the record. But in addition to that, he's also, if he says he didn't take money and he did this, you know, it's going to affect his plea and probably his sentencing. So, crazy stuff. But yes, so he's now expressing regret and remorse and trying to make out that it's a financially motivated thing. You know, this probably ties to, oh, I'm unemployed, I haven't worked for ages, I don't have money, I don't have anywhere to live. You know, I guess if they're trying to push the financial imperative, maybe they think there'll be some sort of clemency. I don't know. I think, if anything, a judge will go the other way. There's also a quote here where Barris talks about his potential sentencing, and he says, as far as serving any amount of time, I'll just take responsibility and serve whatever time or whatever it is they throw at me. I'm willing to do it. Whether you hang me from a tree or you give me 5, 10, 15 years, I don't think it will ever justify what happened. Well, that's probably the first time I agreed. I'll agree with this guy. You know, it's insane that he has ended a totally innocent person's life for these flimsy reasons. And the whole case disgusts me on a very profound level. You know, as I've said before, I've been writing about swatting now for years. I always knew this was inevitable, that someone was going to get killed as a direct result of swatting. It cannot continue to go on without that happening. It happened. It's an even bigger tragedy in the sense that this guy, you know, seemingly was the victim of a bad shooting, and had, you know, didn't do anything to alarm the police. You know, put his hand up over his face or something. Based on the video, sure, it might be a quick movement. It just doesn't justify the use of lethal force, in my opinion. Now, just as an aside, I did see the other day that it turns out people are still swatting off the back of this. I have no idea why anybody would still be doing this, given that now it's absolutely clear not only where it can go to, but what the consequences can be. You know, I don't think people making nuisance calls really appreciate what it's like to have the gravity on you of you are responsible for having someone's life taken, and on top of that, you're gonna go to jail. Like, this is it now. There's gonna be some legislation passed. There's gonna be some specific laws passed. And people are going to go to jail for a long time for doing this thing. It's not funny. It never was. It's never been amusing. It's never been throwaway. It's not a joke. And I'm imploring anybody who thinks this is funny, you've got to stop. Like, seriously, this is going to ruin other people's lives, potentially lose their lives. It's going to ruin yours as well. And yet here we had, just the other day, Mythic Reborn GG, is the Twitter account, and we all know the Mythic organization. They had to put out a tweet saying 2 of our players were swatted last night. This is not a joke, and it's funny to no one. A person in Kansas already lost their life this year due to stupid actions like this. It puts everyone in an unsafe and unnecessary situation, as well as takes up the time of emergency services. Now, again, fortunately for the people affected in this instance, they've already talked to their local police. They've already said, listen, I'm a public figure. This is my address. People might want to try and swat me. And I will urge any streamer, anybody who even is worried about that kind of thing, if anybody ever threatens you to swat, contact the police immediately, because you can insulate yourself from the risk if you have a good rapport with your local police force and they understand that these kind of hoaxes are likely. It's definitely worth, you know, the time to protect yourself from this kind of thing. So definitely pick up the phone, go down to your local station, try and get some time with the officers. I'm sure they're very busy, but you can insulate yourself against this and minimize the harm that can come out of it. Anyway, I just wanted to give everybody an update. Thanks a lot for supporting the channel, as always. Thanks a lot for watching the video, and no doubt I'll be back to a regular streaming schedule and everything else when I get back from Boston. Take care.